All right, Chair Williams, the hour has reached 10 o'clock. I think we're ready to begin if you are.
Great. Definitely would like to call our meeting to order for our Mountain Line Board on Wednesday, September 20th, 2023 at 10 a.m. Just so everyone knows that the Board of Directors may vote at any time to hold an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from Mountain Line's attorney and any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to Arizona revised statutes. The executive session may be held at any time during the meeting, and executive sessions are not open to public pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws. And with that said, I would like to ask Rhonda to do roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Williams and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews is excused. Coconino County, Judy Begay is expected to join us. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet. Here. Thank you. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Here.
And CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We do have Ms. Galen Johnson here from Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. Galen, are you with us?
Present. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. And let's see. We are expecting our attorney, Scott Holcomb, but I don't see him on the line yet. You just joined. Okay.
Good.
Scott, are you with us?
I am. I apologize. My Zoom was more of a not so zoomy this morning. Sorry about that.
And we have members of staff in the room and on Zoom. And I'll turn it back to you, Chair Williams. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Moving on to item number 3 on our agenda this morning, the safety minute. Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Stay up here now. The second safety minute for September is on fire safety. So October is fire safety month, or the upcoming month. Is your workplace fireproof? Not only do fires present a severe safety hazard, they can also be detrimental to a business's success due to the possible destruction of business equipment or facilities. Fire safety awareness in the workplace should be second nature. In times of crisis, it is human nature to rely on memory created through practice. October is the perfect time to conduct a fire drill before a real-life event occurs. October is also a great time to make sure we as a business are doing everything we can to prevent fires in the workplace. Here are some of those preventative measures. Eliminate clutter. Exercise good housekeeping. Clutter can easily become a fuel source in the event of a fire, allowing a fire to spread quickly. Fire extinguishers. Maintain the appropriate type and number of fire extinguishers. Conduct monthly and annual extinguisher inspections to ensure that they are all in good working condition. Also provide training for employees on the correct use of these fire extinguishers. Chemical safety. Use and store chemicals safely. Read hazard warning labels and safety data sheets to determine flammability and other fire hazards. Ensure your chemical storage areas provide adequate ventilation for the storage of chemicals or other hazardous substances. Exits. Ensure emergency exit route diagrams are posted and accessible in all areas of the facility for all employees to easily view. Additionally, ensure means of egress are well lit with regulated exit signs and free from debris, clutter, or obstructions. It is always better to be proactive rather than reactive. Let's all use October to educate our staff on fire safety. Thank you and welcome to the September board meeting.
Thank you, Sam. Really appreciate it. Milestone anniversaries, Heather.
Excuse me one moment, Chair Williams. We do have Director Begay here with us now.
Great.
Thank you, Rhonda. All right, well, this morning, well, good morning, Chair Williams and members of the board. This morning, I'm happy to present a couple milestone anniversaries with you. We would like to celebrate Grace Charlie, who is a transit operator for Mountain Line. She actually operates primarily on our paratransit service, and we are celebrating this September her 15th anniversary. But anecdotally, I wanted to share with you that Grace was actually here when I started in 2002. She did take a brief sabbatical and returned to Mountain Line several years later. All told, Grace has roughly 30 years of service with Mountain Line as a paratransit operator. I did hear from her supervisor that Grace is one of our kindest operators. She is always willing to go above and beyond to assist our clients with scheduling issues and making them feel safe and secure during transport. Most importantly, Grace gets them where they want to go, going the extra mile to keep Mountain Line compliant. And so I congratulate Grace on her 15 years. And we do have a gift for her that we will present her at another time, because I know she is out right now operating one of our vehicles. I have added to this report our 1-year anniversaries. Our employees who reach their first anniversary with Mountain Line are an important part of our strategy and successes. And so we celebrate these employees and recognize this first anniversary, but I've never shared it with you, the board, and I'm going to be adding that to our monthly report. And so I'm going to start at the top left and just go around the table there. Don Palmer is a transit bus operator. His supervisor reported, "Don't let his quiet demeanor fool you." Don is hardworking, a consistent performer. He maintains great attendance. Don is regularly willing to come in on his day off to assist with scheduling and vacant shifts. But most importantly, our passengers really like Don. He is a true asset to our programs. Elvira Cisco, a transit operator, has a smile on her face and is always welcoming our passengers. She is hardworking and willing to assist wherever we need her. Fellow staff say she is upbeat and has an infectious personality, and her supervisor agrees. I'm going to jump to the bottom so that I stay with the transit operators. So Chris Havlin on the bottom left, his supervisor reported, "Wow, if I could clone an operator, I would clone Chris. He's a solid and focused operator. He's consistent, he's dependable, he's safe, and he operates and performs his job with a high level of integrity. Chris is a shining example of Mountain Line's core values." Erin Linehan on the right-hand bottom is a classic example of personnel development. Aaron did have a somewhat rough beginning with us, as he was challenged as being not only new to driving a vehicle, but new to the area. Oftentimes you would find Aaron not on route because he was unfamiliar with our street network. However, he always maintained his professional approach to the job and showed a willingness to succeed. His hard work has paid off. Aaron is a successful member of our transit team, and he has shown he has what it takes to become one of Mountain Line's best. And then on the top right, Stephen Yazzie is within our facilities department, and I'll share from his team. Stephen has played a crucial role in ensuring the upkeep and cleanliness of our bus stops since the end of January. So for almost 8 months straight, he has admirably taken on the responsibilities of 2 individuals and performed them solely. He's approached the role with a strong sense of pride and ownership, and his contributions make him a valuable asset. And I will just share briefly, Stephen stopped in my office this week. We were celebrating his 1-year anniversary together, and he shared with me that he believes it is his role to ensure that everyone who waits at our bus stops has the same experience that he would want for his grandmother. And I thought that was just a very personal approach to the job, and I was very impressed with it, and I thought I would share it with you. So thank you for giving me a few moments to highlight and celebrate these milestone anniversaries.
Thank you, Heather, and congratulations to all those being recognized today. Really do think it's important to celebrate these milestones. So I'm glad that Mountain Line is taking advantage of those opportunities when they arise. We are at the call to the public. Do we have anyone present today that wants to make a public comment, Rhonda?
And we don't have anyone in the room, but I do have one written public comment that we received. Is from Jahan Jefferson on September 7th at 1:44 p.m. And it is related to making Mountain Line free fare, and it will be attached to the minutes. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Moving on to our next item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from the August 16th board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving into our discussion action items within our agenda this morning. The first item is the biennial performance report. And I believe Busy Collins reporting on this, Heather?
Yes, thank you. Sorry for the typo on the agenda.
Okay. Busy, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I look forward to bringing you an update on our various strategic metrics. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So this slide is more familiar. We've looked at this for many years, since 2015. I'm going to go through this and then go into our strategic plan KPIs. So on this slide, I'm only showing 2019 and then 2023 and 2024, and then the 26 and 30 projections. So the jump from 2019 to 2023 looks pretty big. In your packet, you do have all of the years between them, so you can see the gradual change. So I just want to point that out before we get started. And then I'm just going to highlight a few of the stats of each of these modes as we go through, and then I'll pause at the end for any questions that you may have. So starting with our fixed route bus, the gold box, we're looking back, really, I'm focusing on 2023 actual. So we did have half of the year an operator shortage and reduced service last year. And so we did see reduced boardings as a result. However, it was still better than last year, better than FY22. We saw a 21% increase over FY22. We're still at 62% of that pre-COVID ridership for our bus system. So we still have some growth. However, we are on track to reach that by 2026. And we'll just keep you updated on that item. For our demand response services, so that's the light blue box, we now have two services. Our paratransit, I'm going to give a quick description of them. So both paratransit and microtransit provide origin to destination service, and they operate only when trips are requested, similar to a taxi. These services are commingled using the same vehicle and driver, and trips are grouped together as a shared ride for efficiency. However, the difference is paratransit service is an eligibility-based program available for people with disabilities who do not have the functional ability to ride fixed route buses, either permanently or under certain conditions. The service area overlaps Mountain Line bus routes, and it is required by the Americans with Disabilities Act. However, microtransit, that's only been in service for the last 2 years, first year as a pilot, second year as a permanent service. We're now in its third year, and it's open to the public. It serves just a very concrete area. It's the Huntington Industrial Corridor where there is no bus service. And then the microtransit connects into the bus service. So it's really a supplemental service trying to maximize surrounding bus service. And so our paratransit, just looking at the data here, so our paratransit clients have the option to take subsidized trip by taxi. So you can see the taxi program in the orange below, instead of a paratransit van. And taxi trips are increasingly popular and assist in reducing paratransit trips and lowering the overall operational costs for Mountain Line, which is great. And FY23 only saw a 1% growth in paratransit over FY22. We're still 57% of pre-COVID or normal ridership. And the microtransit service continues to fluctuate in ridership. So it's really based on individuals' need for food and shelter assistance. That's where those assistance programs are located, in that in Huntington Industrial Corridor. And so that changes over time. We're seeing new people learning about the service. We, month over month, we have a few new riders, but it just fluctuates. So we're really excited to see how this kind of evens out. If it does even out, maybe it's a fluctuating service, which is great. It's there for people who need it. And you can see, so in the so because it's a commingled service, our overall costs for demand response have been split. So our cost per trip is very much split out there between the paratransit and the microtransit. And so it's definitely a more efficient way to provide paratransit service with that commingled microtransit, and we're seeing that in our costs. So we're very excited about that. I'm going to move on to the taxi program. Again, this is only a program available for paratransit approved individuals. The city and county taxi program remain the prime choice for those paratransit customers due to the individualized service. The taxi program option is provided at a lower cost than that of paratransit. So you can see the cost per trip comparison. So $19 for a taxi ride in the city compared to $54 on paratransit. So that's wonderful. And then, so city trips are up 19% over FY22, while county trips are down 29%. And last item, van pool. So the dark blue box on the bottom. Van pool has a unique user base. Most vans are a mix of healthcare and Forest Service staff. Ridership was not impacted by COVID. You can see 2019 compared to 23. We had a 50% growth over FY22. That is from 4 additional vans being added to the program, which is great. And you can see, so van pool ridership is 54% higher than pre-COVID. So again, not impacted by COVID, continues to just be a very successful program for our communities. Any questions on this slide before I move on to the strategic plan KPIs?
Yeah, Busy, I have a question.
Yeah.
I know that you referenced several times the pre-COVID numbers in 2019, and that we're slowly seeing that return to normal. I'm just curious if, in your experience in the data that Mountain Line is collecting, the ridership or return to 19 levels is how much is that really due to COVID itself versus perhaps some of our riders previously during COVID found alternative ways on how they were going to be getting around? Do you know?
We definitely have seen changed travel patterns, whether they're an individual is finding a different way to get to where they used to go, or maybe they're just working from home. We definitely, we're not exactly able to see all of those impacts, but we just know anecdotally from ourselves and the people that we, live with, of all of those things are happening right now, Mr. Chair. And we do, knowing that pre-COVID ridership was that high and that there is the need in the community and population has only increased and income has only decreased. We definitely anticipate reaching that pre-COVID number, at least for the bus specifically.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Any other questions from board members? Busy, I think you can move forward.
Great, thank you very much. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So now here is our scorecard with the strategic plan KPIs. And again, this is just kind of the high level dashboard scorecard image, and I'm going to dive into each of these. So next slide, please, Rhonda. And overall, staff in the last 5 months have been working to set up tracking systems for a lot of our goals. We've identified the goals, and Now we're making sure that we can track all of these with various systems, getting new procedures in place with our staff, transferring any old data from an old tracking mechanism, if there was any, into new. So staff's definitely been working on the background to get all this set up. And so you will see today that not everything is has some metrics, some data to it. So just wanted to give that brief update first. So again, I'm just going to highlight a few stats from each of these strategic plan goals, and then I'll pause for questions on each slide. I have this is one of 3 slides that I have left. So strategic excellence, goal 1. We had discussed in the spring about using a net promoter score. We did some peer research on it. It's not conclusive on whether that metric is valuable to Mountain Line. So we're continuing research on that item. What we do have in the interim is on the very last of the red lines, overall customer satisfaction with service. And that is from the Mountain Line Customer Satisfaction Survey. So the last time we conducted that was FY18, 89%. And it was just conducted last year, 89% as well. So we're just kind of toying with the right metric here, and we'll be back in the spring again if this is something we really want to be permanent in our KPIs. But I think it's a really great metric to use as we continue to understand what's the best way to demonstrate that customers are satisfied and our service is excellent. The other thing I want to point out is emissions. So the last line in blue, and you can see that there's not a lot of change going on. However, our tracking system has not incorporated our various APS electricity mix. So if it's currently about half from green sources, and yet our tracking system says 100% non-renewable sources. So we're getting a lot. We just got to get everything in line for the emissions data to be accurate for us. So we do think that the number for FY23 and FY24 will be lower. We just need to get those tracking systems in place. Any questions on this slide before I move to the next?
We have a question in the room, Chair Williams from Supervisor Begay.
Thank you, Ms. Collins, for the update. Under your service excellence, under 1.1 and 1.123, I was just wondering how you determine the percentages. Is there numbers that you're using to get those percentages, or how are you determining that you're at 70% actual, and what do you use to determine that percentage? It says actual, but when you have a goal, at 70%, sometimes they use numbers. And I was just kind of trying to understand this KPI.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Supervisor Begay. So the residents who are more likely to be dependent on transit have access to the most frequent service. I think that's the specific KPI you're referring to at that 70%. And I do have another graph, but it's not in this slide to really demonstrate what that looks like. So that 70% number is based on American Community Survey data for our community. And so we identified individuals who are self-selected as low income in the American Community Survey. And within our Mountain Line system, so within a quarter mile of our bus stops, we do have 70% low income individuals within our service area. So that's what that number reflects. And there is a whole lot others. It's like total population and number of jobs that our service currently supports in the local population. So I can absolutely send that to you, Supervisor Begay, if that's helpful for more background. I know this is, as an isolated stat, is a little confusing.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Excellent.
Any other questions from board members?
Great.
Hearing none, I think you can move forward, Busy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. So here are our next 2 goals: investing in Mountain Line workforce, enhance safety culture. So our workforce, we have a lot of NAs, a lot of blank spots. We're working within our inflection tracking system to set all of that up and make sure that we're getting data put in as individuals are promoted, et cetera, and trained. And in safety, I want to point to the safety item. So I did want to just first note that we define accidents. So it says total vehicle accidents, 78 last year in FY23. We define accidents as when a vehicle makes contact with everything. So this is not, massive collisions on the road. So I want to put that out there first before you see that number. And we're really focused on that preventable accidents. So that is our scorecard metrics, and looking at really which accidents could have been prevented, go through that training to make sure that training is also reflecting lowering preventable incident accidents, et cetera. So we are working on those items, and I'll also note that approximately 40% of our total collisions in FY23 occurred between January and March due to the number and intensity of snowstorms. So really challenging in the winter. Again, a lot of those are non-preventable. So, there's nothing in that incident that a driver could have done differently. So really making sure that we're focusing on the preventable accidents. Another item I want to bring up is the 100 Club. So the very last line in this slide, percentage of staff recognized with a safety award. So Sam Short and HR has been working on various safety award ideas. The first one that has been implemented as of July 1st is a 100 Club. So this is recognition for staff that receive a 100% rating on their behind the wheel evaluation. It's performed randomly several times a year. It focuses on safe driving and customer service, and drivers were unaware that they were being evaluated at the time. And since the program started, 15 operators have earned a 100%, a place in the 100 Club, and they do receive recognition and a bonus on their following paycheck, and that's available twice per year if they do pass with 100%. And staff continues to explore more safety ideas, such as an annual accident-free award. So we'll be sure to bring that to you in the future as we develop those. And next slide, please. This is my last slide. And the last two goals, community engagement, financial health. So I wanted to bring up, we do have the community value survey. So the second item in red there, the bold, people who have never ridden the bus report Mountain Line is seen as a valuable service for our community. And that came from the Never Rider survey that Mountain Line conducts. The last time we conducted that survey was FY19. We had a whopping 93.1% community support, which was wonderful. And so the next goal for that is FY26. And I just wanted to really explain that we're doing a lot of survey work right now with the transit tax, that being out there with a lot of these poll questions and various questioning for specific events is very confusing to do a large, broad survey such as the Never Rider survey. Another item to note is that polling community value with the transit tax absolutely gives us feedback on the true value of transit and community support. So we're getting them, they're just not perfect apples to apples comparison. So I wanted to bring that up as it's going to be a bit of a stagnant metric. However, we are gauging community value in other ways in the meantime. And that's all I have on the strategic plan KPIs, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Busy. Any questions from the board, please? Hearing none, but Busy, I want to thank you for your presentation today and the updates you shared. This is for information at this point. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. We will move on to our next item on agenda, which will be the annual report. And Josh Stone will be leading us through this. Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to all members of the board that are here. All right, so this is our fiscal year 2023 annual report. We'll go through it quickly and try not to put anyone to sleep. It's very dry and mostly straight technical data, but it's in state statutory requirements and our IGA that we will produce this report and submit it to various places. So we're gonna review some of the performance items and financial outcomes for the year. Some of these are similar to, or in some cases exactly what Busy has shared. So I'll try not to sound like a broken record and jump over those if I find them. Sure hers was a lot more dynamic anyway, so please bear with me and excuse any overlap if there is any. So starting off, we have a few highlights of note for the year. We have focused and continued to focus on recruitment and retention. There's a ongoing shortage, of commercial driver license holders across many organizations in the community. I don't know when that will subside, if ever, but we will continue doing the best we can to hire as we can. We continue to meet competitive benchmarks for STIC funding, which is small transit intensive cities. We're just one of 10 small communities nationwide to meet all of the metrics that they are looking for high performance. In the last appropriations funding cycle, we were able to bring an additional $3.2 million in federal funds to Flagstaff by reaching all of those metrics. So that is helpful to our operation. Many of you attended either the groundbreaking of our Downtown Connection Center, our CDL training course at NAU, or both. And then we also received our first electric bus as part of the replacement of our buses. And we actually have received the second one now, just not in fiscal year 2023. But next slide, please. So next up, we're going to review performance of the various programs. These reports are posted for public review monthly at our website. All of the charts reference fiscal year 2019 to 2023. I guess they skipped 2020, but 2019 for reference, just the last full year before COVID. So it gives us a little bit of a benchmark as of before COVID times. This last year, we saw increased ridership across the fixed route bus network of about 21%. I guess I won't go too much more into detail about that. You've heard about some of that from Busy. The next slide, please. So these performance measures, which Busy also showed you, are adopted by the board to evaluate the standard for effectiveness of efficiency of service. So the passenger trips, as I said before, increased by 21% over the prior year. Average trips per day was about 4,300, which is not on here, I guess. It was about 4,300. So with the increase in passengers, the average cost per passenger is still decreasing. So the, obviously as the costs stay somewhat consistent, but the ridership goes up significantly more than the costs are going up. So the costs over time hopefully should go down per passenger and per hour. Last year, the cost of service per hour increased by about $13, primarily due to high fuel costs, continued growth of insurance costs, and increased cost of parts and supplies for the bus fleet. Not reflected on this chart, I would say, is due to the staffing periods through the staffing levels throughout the year. There were periods of time with reduced service on certain routes that also contributed to a higher cost per hour of service. All the operation and overhead expenses remain the same, but they're spread out over less hours of service. So those would be expected to go down somewhat as the hours increase. Next slide, please. Moving on to our paratransit door-to-door service. Ridership remains a little bit lower than pre-COVID, but it's, pretty stable, a little more stable these days. There was a significant winter dip in ridership due to the sort of harsh winter that we had, leading to many clients probably staying home or unable to attend programs that may have been on reduced hours or closed. Next slide, please, is the taxi program. The taxi program is available in the city of Flagstaff service boundary, and then a very small number of clients also take advantage of the service outside the service boundary. And Coconino County assists with the funding for the county portion. So the top metrics are combined city and county taxi trips, and the bottom chart here is just city of Flagstaff trips, which is an average of 532 trips for the city of Flagstaff, which is somewhat in a consistent range of 450 to 550. I guess they go over 600 at one point. But next slide, please. Performance measures for the paratransit programs. Paratransit performed about 1.8 trips per hour, which is similar to the prior year. City taxi vendors provided 6,300 trips, which was an increase of about 1,000 trips. Those taxi trips represent a savings to Mountain Line of about $400,000 if we were to operate all of those trips as paratransit service ourselves. That there's a more significant cost for that with our staff and overhead for the vehicles and things. So the trips are cheaper to us as the vendors are absorbing many of the operating costs that we otherwise would have. Next slide, please. So next up, we're going to review Coconino County programs. The county provides the operating contribution for these programs. Here's the ridership for the van pool program. In the fiscal year 2023, we had about 75 regular users. I don't know if riders would be quite the right word there, but and 9 vans, 9 shared vans in service at peak times. Total trips were up significantly, about 50% over the prior year. You're going to hear later from Estella. We continue to see interest in this program. And so that will be hopefully growing more over time. Next slide, please, is the county taxi program. As I said, in the city taxi slide, the top chart is combined city and county taxi trips. The bottom chart is just county taxi. There's really only about 38 trips per month for this service. Sort of has languished since COVID, and I'm not sure when, if ever soon, there will be very much growth. It's kind of a not a lot of people on the outlying areas want to use the service. So next slide, please, are the performance measures for the county programs. Van pool had close to 15,000 trips, covering 135,000 miles around the county. So that's very robust usage. The county taxi program was 454 trips over the whole year, which was a drop of 30%. So as I said before, it was about 38 trips a month. So, just a difference of 1 or 2 riders, even if they only have a couple of 1 or 2 trips a week, makes a big difference in a very small program like that. Next slide, please. Revenue for the fiscal year 2023. So you can see the revenue contributions from partners, which is the City of Flagstaff, NAU, and Coconino County. ADOT funds are marked as federal funds. The state does not provide transit funding at this time in a meaningful capacity. The state passes through federal dollars primarily that are allocated to the state. And then federal funding, is available typically on a reimbursement basis as we have expenses. So in many cases, we have more funds allocated or awarded to us that we have not drawn on yet. But this is next slide, please. So in the fiscal year 2023, expenses for all operations and capital expenses were about 16.7 million. You can see here the breakdown kind of by program. Planning is on the rise. It'll probably reach its peak this year. We did have about $4 million of planning expenses as construction activity is, going on with the various construction projects. The next slide is expenses. What is it? Expenses by type. Salaries and benefits are definitely the largest of expenses at 7 million. And then maintenance and operations the last several years has increased with the fuel costs and just overall maintenance of the sort of aging fleet. Next slide is very boring and is local money only. This is all covered by advertising revenue, which we had about a little over $100,000 of advertising revenue this year. Expenses are very small. They cover board meetings and a few memberships. We don't charge any salaries or overhead to this general fund. So it is building up a balance. Okay, next slide, please. Here are the costs for the City of Flagstaff specifically. This is the bus, paratransit, and city taxi programs. So as I said before, maintenance and operations is up due to fuel costs, liability insurance, and parts. That's that. Next slide is planning expenses. Planning expenses are tracked separately. Anyone that works with the various projects, we try to capitalize planning wages so that the costs can be included in the project budgets, which are grant funded typically. And then that results in operation savings, cost to the City of Flagstaff tax dollars, since 80% of the wages can be charged to the grants instead of the city. Next slide, please. Last slide, I think, is the two smaller Coconino County programs, taxi and van pool. The largest part of this cost is outside vendors. Enterprise provides the van pool vehicles. Those are leased on a monthly basis, and then taxi providers provide the taxi trips. And then the administration salaries and benefits is kind of just marketing of the programs and other administrative costs for that. So I think that is all. I think that's all the slides I have. Hope everyone's still awake. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to lob them this way. Otherwise, we just need to approve and file the report.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you very much. Before I call for a motion, are any board members present today that might have a question or need further clarification on some of Josh's slides? Hearing none, I will call for a motion to approve the fiscal 2023 annual report and authorize staff to submit the report to the state of Arizona and partner agencies as required in the master IGA. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, board members? Hearing none, all those in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, Josh.
Chair Williams, this
Yes.
is Scott Holcomb. I just want you to know, at least on my system, the first 4 or 5 words that you say are always very quiet and tinny, and then it comes in full volume. I don't know if other people are having that same hearing that same thing. Just be aware of your mic seems to be having a delay in it and picking up your full sound.
Thank you, Scott. It likely is I'm remote today in another state, and so I am having some connectivity issues. So hopefully, as we progress, that won't be a problem. The next item on our agenda is to have a review of the Winslow Indian Health Care Center request for service. I believe Estella Hollander is going to lead us in this conversation today. Estella.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Estella Hollander, Mobility Planner for Mountain Line. And today I'm presenting on a service request that we received from Winslow Indian Healthcare Center regarding our van pool program. And just want to give a thank you to Galen Johnson from Winslow Indian Healthcare Center for being in attendance today during today's meeting to show support. And next slide, please. So first, a little background. So our current van pool program, all van pools must have an origin or destination in Coconino County. And this is because Coconino County pays the local match on the $400 subsidy that each van pool receives each month. And we have a contract with Commute with Enterprise for this program, and they provide the vehicles, a lot of administration as well for this program. And so Winslow Indian Healthcare Center actually already has 2 vans that are participating in the Mountain Line Van Pool program that are within Coconino County, and these are from Flagstaff to Winslow. And so this request is seeking that they can expand outside of Coconino County into Navajo County. So this would be a van pool from Holbrook into Winslow, as well as it provides the opportunity to expand to the new Dilcon Medical Center, which is also in Navajo County. So these van pools, again, would not cross through Coconino County, so therefore seeking a request to expand the service area. And so Winslow Indian Healthcare would provide the local match on the $400 subsidy for the service request. So next slide, please. And so Mountain Line has a regional request policy. And so I'll just kind of run through some of the minimum requirements and show how this request meets them. And so first is the direct costs of the service are paid by the requesting agency. So yes, Winslow Indian Healthcare Center is planning to pay the local match on the $400 subsidy. Next is the indirect costs of the service are paid by the requesting agency. And so these are very negligible. There's not a lot of staff time that will go into this once it's approved. And so we don't feel like that we need to add additional indirect costs to this request. Next is that the service request is consistent with Mountain Line's vision, mission, and core values. And so yes, staff believe it is. And regarding the core values, like collaboration, embodying challenges, and sustainability rise to the top. And then lastly, Mountain Line can continue to meet all existing commitments to Mountain Line member agencies per the strategic work plan. And yes, staff believe that this again will be kind of minimal workload and can be accommodated without impacting other projects. Next slide, please. So some additional considerations that are included in this policy is, does the requesting agency have long-term funding commitment? And so their proposal letter, and they did talk about paying for a year, and then we can evaluate this after that period going forward. And Winslow Indian Healthcare is really paying for the vans that are on the road. So for example, with like the Winslow to Holbrook, Holbrook to Winslow van pool, if this does disband, then Winslow Indian Healthcare would no longer pay for that, the local match on the subsidy. And so this really would not disrupt our existing van pool program, and staff can continue to promote and expand the service in Coconino County. And so are there any indirect benefits to Mountain Line member agencies if the service request is honored? Yes, definitely. The van pool program in Navajo County has been a topic and desire for several years. It was identified in NACOG's Northern Arizona Council of Governments passenger transportation study. So definitely this has been a desire for many years. So we're really excited about this request because it's really the first step into starting a program in Navajo County. And there could be, again, a potential maybe to expand in the future with other agencies or whatnot. So, and this just further enhances mobility and transportation options in Navajo County where there currently is not a van pool program. And next slide, please. I believe that is the end of my presentation. So this is an action item. So we are seeking, and so staff recommend the board of directors approve the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center service request to participate in the Mountain Line van pool program.
Great, thank you, Estella. Do we have any questions from the board?
I have a question.
We have a question in the room, Tony, from Supervisor Begay.
Go ahead, Supervisor Begay.
Thank you for giving me the time, and thank you, Ms. Hollander, for the presentation. As we go to these van pools and the request for the van pools, I solely support that, and I think it's needed. So the route, how are the routes going to be determined? You know, you're saying Holbrook to Winslow to Dilcon Health Center and then back into Fly. How are the routes going to be? How is the route going to be running?
Thank you for the question. And so I guess one of the benefits of van pool is that it's very flexible, and it's very similar to carpooling, meaning that actually the people participating in the van pool group will determine the route at like what time, where they meet, that kind of thing. So it best kind of accommodates the schedules of the participants. So there is actually an existing van pool that goes from Holbrook to the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center. So again, if this request is approved, that van pool could then receive the $400 subsidy. And so with this request, it would also provide the opportunities to provide van pools to the Dilcon Medical Center. And so those routes have not necessarily been determined yet. And so that could be, for example, like Winslow to Dilcon, or if there's other parts in Navajo County that go to Dilcon. So it's really up to the staffing levels and what kind of group formations, what van pool formations can be formed.
Another question I have is the ridership. Who would be allowed? I know there's a lot of people that would use it for sure. And so I'm just kind of wondering, you know, what preferences there are, you know, as far as these van pools are concerned.
Mm-hmm. And so this is Winslow Indian Healthcare Center is actually sponsoring the van pool, meaning that they are paying the lease of the vehicle each month. So it is geared towards their staff. So this would not necessarily, but I guess it is open to Winslow Indian Healthcare Center, but I don't think the intent is to open this up to the general public per se. It's really geared towards staff and getting their staff to either the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center or potentially in the future to the Dilcon Medical Facility.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I think, you know, prior at one of the meetings that we had maybe last year. This was something that we was being talked about, so I'm glad it's coming into fruition and that, it's gonna help our people out there that are gonna need the ride, into and saving costs at the same time. So thank you so much. And I really would like to ask the board, to honor this request as presented, and that, it's gonna help everyone that I know that is in the healthcare, and knowing that there's another type of virus that might be coming in, we may, have to really accommodate, the people to get around to, help the others at the hospitals or wherever. So I just want to say thank you to the board here.
Thank you, Supervisor Begay. Appreciate your comments. Any other questions from the board today? Hearing none, I would accept a motion to approve the Winslow Indian Healthcare Center service request to participate in the Mountain Lion Van Pool program.
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Sweet. Any discussion or any discussion?
Good morning. This is Galen Johnson, if I may, Chair.
Yes, please, Galen.
Yes, good morning, board members. I just want to extend my appreciation to everyone there with the organization and accepting our request. I know our employees here will truly appreciate the offer and the opportunity to continue the services to our employees. So thank you very much.
Galen, thank you, Galen, and thank you for being present today. Really appreciate that. So we have a motion to approve. We've got a second. I haven't heard any other further need for discussion. All those in favor signal by saying yes or aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see what's on in our agenda. I think Estella is still on the floor and to provide a grant status report. Estella.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair Williams, members of the board, Estella Hollander again. And I'm providing an update on, just kind of a grant status of some of our open grant awards that we currently have, and as well as our main funding grant sources that we receive. So next slide, please. Excellent. And so over the past 18 years, Mountain Lion has received 147 grant awards, which is valued over $150 million, which is awesome. And we've spent over 80% of those funds. We still have some kind of large projects out, such as the construction of our Downtown Connection Center, as well as a recent grant award for the construction of a new maintenance facility on our Caspar campus. And we've been able to leverage 166% of the City of Flagstaff transit tax dollars through these grant awards, which again is also great. Next slide, please. And so this chart shows just some of the main federal funding awards that Mountain Lion receives. The main one in red, which is the majority, is the direct competitive grant awards, which is 5339 or bus facilities. And so this is from last year. So this grant includes a large award from the construction of the maintenance facility. So that's kind of a large chunk there. We also received some competitive FTA money, but through a competitive process that Arizona Department of Transportation, or ADOT, puts out. And then we also receive some appropriation or funding that just kind of is received to Mountain Lion, and then some other funding sources as well from ADOT. Next slide, please. And so in terms of the FTA, or Federal Transit Administration grants, there's two kind of main distinctions, and one is formula funds, which is based on population, as well as then that Mountain Line can match those funds with our local tax dollars. So that tends to be a lot of our operating funding, and then discretionary or competitive grants. And so some of the main ones are 5307, which is our urbanized area formula funding. And so this is something that, Mountain Line is apportioned or given each year. And then some of the competitive ones are section 5339, which is bus facility. So that funding has been for like the construction of the Downtown Connection Center, this new maintenance facility. So those tend to be, multi-million-dollar pots of funding that Mountain Line competes for on a national level. And then lastly, ADOT also has a competitive grant application, since they receive some of this 5339 funding, as well as some of the 5307 funding that some other small urban communities don't use. So they kind of sweep the money in the state, and then there's a competitive pot of funding that Mountain Line competes for. Next slide, please. And so some of the FTA open grants, all of you are familiar with our Downtown Connection Center, so that's still in progress. We also have a pedestrian and bicycle improvement near transit. So that's like connecting sidewalks, crossings, and improved bike lanes to transit. That's a partnership with City of Flagstaff. We also have like some technology upgrades at our Caspar facility. There's the commercial driver's license course, electric charging equipment. We also received a grant award for support vehicles for both our facilities and operation departments. We also received some grant awards for low-no emission buses. So to start bus replacement, and then the design and construction of a new maintenance facility at our Caspar headquarters. Next slide, please. And so ADOT, Arizona Department of Transportation grants, the two main ones that we receive funding from is 5310, or Enhanced Mobility of Seniors and Individual Disabilities, and then 5311, which is a rural public transit program. Next slide, please. And so from those grant awards, or from those grant programs, we receive mobility management, which helps fund some staff time and helps really help with coordination efforts throughout the Metro Plan or Flagstaff MPO region. We also receive operations for like our ADA Plus program. This allows us to go above and beyond for our paratransit program, kind of above and beyond the requirements for our paratransit program, and then as well as the taxi program that has been mentioned today. We received also funding to do a website accessibility audit and implementation. So this is basically making sure, making changes and updates to our website to make sure it is usable and accessible by everyone. And then our Mountain Line van pool program. So that is a 5311 or rural transit program. So that helps, provide funding for that program. Next slide, I believe that is the end. Yeah, so that's just kind of a quick grant status report to provide kind of what some of the open projects and some of the main grant funding sources that we receive each year.
Estella, thank you very much. I know this is not an action item this morning, but are there any additional questions or clarification needed from any of the board members this morning? Hearing none, I thank you for your time today, Estella, walking us through the grant status report. Really do appreciate it, and amazing that $150 million, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
How many years over time was that?
It was over 18, so it is over many years, but still, it is a big investment in the community.
Absolutely. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to, yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if I may, while Estella is still on camera, 150 million over 18 years is great, right? But to shorten that, let's talk about the 50 million-ish that Estella and her team have competed for over the last 5 years. The DCC was a significant highest in the nation award. Estella was a key part of that. And then more recently, the other 16 million that we received for our Caspar facility. And so 150 over 18 years is tremendous to report, but I wanted to acknowledge Estella and her work, specifically over the last 5 years with some of those much larger grant awards that we have been able to achieve and make improvements in our community.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Heather. And thank you, Estella, for your leadership and making that all very possible. 50 million in 5 years is a chunk of change.
Chunk of change.
So moving on, our agenda number 11 is our maintenance facility design kickoff. And I believe Ann Dunno is going to lead us in this today. Ann.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Williams, members of the board, and Dunno, Capital Development Project Manager. Today, I'd like to give you an update on our maintenance facility kickoff project. I'm not seeking any, there's no decision. This is an update and want to get your feedback. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So to segue on to the last agenda item with Estella, this project is benefiting from those federal grant dollars. You can really see the value that for essentially not quite $5 million local funds, we are going to be able to hopefully deliver this project in the next couple of years. Next slide, please. Some board members may recall that we developed a CASPAR CASPAR headquarters master plan last year that was adopted by the board in November. And that master plan looked at our CASPAR headquarters facilities to maximize bus storage and maintenance at this site because, as you're all aware, with the DCC coming online in a year and a half-ish, many staff are moving downtown, so that frees up some space here. And so we developed a plan around that, of which the maintenance facility was identified as really our number one priority to start on at this facility. And some of the key goals for this project are obviously to provide for accommodating our existing maintenance. We are undersized with our articulated buses, and so this new facility will accommodate that, but also really put our crystal ball on looking out to 2043, approximately 20 years, and looking at building this for the long term. This new facility would greatly improve our working conditions for the fleet mechanic staff with an updated facility, better lighting, better space, the ability to also work with our new EV buses and batteries with a little crane inside to help move those really heavy batteries. Also really looking to develop the facility to be flexible for future fleet technologies because things are changing so rapidly in the fuel design, alternative zero emissions design that there could be other types of zero emissions that we could be looking at in the future. Next slide, please. So with that master plan, we had looked at several alternatives, and ultimately the concept A, which is shown here, was adopted. And concept A has two key phases. Phase one, you can see, is where our maintenance facility will be located. Phase two is where we're going to build a future bus storage. Next slide, please. And a little more detail on what we're doing with the maintenance facility. You can see in this slide, the blue area is a 21,000 square foot maintenance facility that will have 3 levels. Currently, we maintain vehicles in this small orange square that you see off just to the lower left that will stay in place during construction so we can continue to maintain vehicles. But you can see quite the size difference that's going to provide great capacity for existing and future fleet. Next slide, please. So level 1 was the actual maintenance bays. Level 2 is a mezzanine where we could put HVAC equipment, maybe some storage. Next slide, please. We are also designing this building to accommodate future parking for employees. Part of, as you'll see in the next slide with our bus storage, we are disturbing our existing parking, and in order to get circulation into the maintenance, we're going to need to offset that big picture. So we are looking to have essentially rooftop parking with solar on top of the maintenance facility. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Here's a little slice. The maintenance facility is in the kind of is blue with the various levels. And then you can see the rooftop parking. And then phase 2 would fit with the bus storage and also match up with the parking on level 3. Next slide, please, Linda. And as part of the city approval process, we will need to do an update to our conditional use permit with the city. So the red parcel and the purple parcel, what we're doing is actually also potentially looking at we are looking at a lot modification for the green parcel is the vacant land that Mountain Line would be looking in the future. It's not related directly to this project. Would be looking to sell or dispose of, that would come to the board at a future agenda item. But part of, we believe we might need some resources in this lower green trapezoid underneath the blue dash line that we would put into and combine with the purple parcel. And as part of that, we would need to do a rezoning from high density residential, which is the green parcel, to highway commercial, which is our purple and red parcels. So there's a little bit of an administrative planning process to work with the city in the timing to get our CUP updated. So we're kind of working through those details right now with city planning. Next slide, please. And a little bit about generally our project delivery. We do have HDR on board. We've initiated design. They did our master planning and they are working now on our final design for the maintenance. We also need to develop some preliminary design of the bus storage to make sure everything fits together, big picture. And as I said, we'll have to go through that conditional use permit process at the city. And then either coordinated with, or it could be part of, we'll have to do that rezoning of that Linda Vista parcel in the lot mod. And then with respect to construction, we anticipate bringing on a construction manager at risk in November. We're putting out a procurement. And then as part of that, they would be on board to help with constructability reviews and help us through the final design. And then we would hope to develop, be able to put a shovel in the ground, potentially as early as November of 24. Actually, next slide, please, Rhonda. I can show the general schedule. You can see we're kind of looking at getting into pre-construction this coming year in 24, and then probably full construction January 2025, and hopefully be in the building in early 2026 would be the goal. And I believe that ends my slides. And I welcome any questions the board might have.
Thank you, Ann, for that review. Really do appreciate it. Board members, any questions for Ann at this time? Hearing none, I think we can thank Ann for her efforts today and walking us through. It's certainly an exciting time with the different facility projects that we have going on. Definitely going to set us up for a promising future with these changes, these upgrades. So thank you for your presentation today, Ann.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving along in our agenda this morning, progress reports. I believe that Heather has got a few items to summarize for current events. Heather.
Thank you, Chair Williams. You have the current events in your staff report, but I wanted to highlight a few things. Our staffing update is that we are now at 48 full-time operators and 5 part-time staff. The requirement for full service for us to provide both fixed route and paratransit is really 53 staff members, full-time status. So we're getting there, we're getting closer. Unfortunately, we get closer and then we inch back. It's like 3 steps forward, 1 step back in some fashions. We were almost fully staffed at the beginning of summer. We had our normal summer attrition, and that has created some crises. We are really working hard not to ask our staff for that mandatory sixth day or overtime, because we have required that of them for such a long period of time that we're seeing that play out in fatigue across our team members. And for retention reasons, we have really focused on what are their needs. So we do have a service reduction in place right now. Route 10 did not go into full service with the start of this school year. It is a minimal reduction. So instead of having 8-minute frequency, I think it's 13 to 15-minute frequency during the school day. It is the least impactful reduction that we do when we talk about impact to the rider. Unfortunately, it does impact our ridership because students will choose to take that walk instead of waiting that extra 5 minutes for the bus. But we really felt strategically it was important to do for our staff members, for their comfort, their safety, and their well-being. We have had 2 times now in the past couple of weeks where we've had to pull a vehicle off of one route at different times because of call outs that were unexpected. And so we are definitely seeing the illness, if you will, return back to our community, the variety of illnesses that come with the change of school schedules, with the change of temperatures, et cetera. So we will continue doing full service, with that one service reduction on Route 10. Our goal is to provide that every day until we get to fully staffed, and we are only pulling service on an as needed basis. But we have graduated a lot of trainees in the last 10 days, and I couldn't tell you that without the support of our HR team, who is making phone calls every day to applicants to get them in here, to our trainers who have worked 50 and 60-hour weeks, working 7 days a week to get people through the training program, and really our operations team who's doing the mentoring, who's doing the training in the field to get people comfortable. So I'm very excited to report that to you. The last bullet, the second to the last bullet on the screen, 2 scheduled to test. Those 2 individuals both passed their test this week. So we are now currently only have 1 person in training, and everyone else is out at least doing route training and has their CDL program. So a really great high point for our team right now. Mountain Line in early August was contacted by Park Services up at the Grand Canyon. We were contacted on a Friday night, late on a Friday night, asking us to help secure the event, President Biden's visit and his dedication of the monument at the Grand Canyon. They needed to secure transportation to ensure the event could take place. And I want to express my thanks to Northern Arizona University and Flagstaff Unified School District, which really helped me late on a Friday night assemble the number of vehicles that would be required for this transportation need. Ultimately, we didn't provide the service. They were able to contract with a coach service that did provide those vehicles. As you can see in the photos, 2 of our staff, Russell Beck and David Doss, our operations manager, we did take 2 buses up to the Grand Canyon to support the event because there was concern if ADA accessible transportation was needed. The coaches did not have that function. So we were glad to be there and be able to witness this event and participate. And in the lower picture, you can see I'm there with our directors, Miranda Sweet and Geronimo Vasquez, and it was really a great event to be there. It certainly wasn't on my schedule. It was not something I ever envisioned in my life being able to do, and it was just a really fantastic thing. And again, I appreciate the school district and the university for taking those late night calls and helping me say, yes, we can have the vehicles if you need us. We did participate in a job fair at Northern Arizona University early in August, and that resulted in 2 applicants for Mountain Line. These are students, and so they would need to have a accommodated training schedule. And our team right now is working on how we can do that, but we are definitely interested in offering these employment opportunities to students while they are in our community. A couple of quick travel reports. The details are in the report in the packet. Busy and Estella attended the American Public Transportation Association's Sustainability Operations Planning and Scheduling Conference, brought back a lot of ideas on ways we can incorporate changes and improve our scheduling and operating solutions. Josh Stone and myself attended the Community Transportation Association of America Small Urban Network Conference. That is a conference that is services, agencies just like Mountain Line. So it is agencies serving between 50,000 and 200,000 people. It's a very targeted audience. It's a great opportunity because we're able to have those conversations that are reflective of things we're dealing with: operator and passenger safety, standardizing bus builds to address build timelines and growing costs, as well as legislative updates. And then lastly, myself, accompanied by Greg Lyons and Andrew Everett from our facilities department, two of our mechanics. We attended the Southwestern Transit Association Summer University Training. It's called university because it's only training. It's not a networking conference. It's very targeted on training opportunities. And I was pleased that the two mechanics could come out. They did a 2-day forum on electric vehicles. And so they were able to hear from other mechanics and other systems and bring back ideas on how we can improve our preparedness for our electric vehicle transition. I want to throw out there, I don't have a slide on it, but City Flagstaff Finance has confirmed that the final fiscal year 2023 tax revenues are roughly $900,000 higher than budgeted. So those funds sit in what we call our fund balance at the City of Flagstaff. And while we will not use them immediately, they are important to ensuring the future success of transit in our community. And so we're very pleased to report that those revenues have increased that much over their budget. Quick milestone on the Downtown Connection Center. On the photo on the left, way in the left corner, you can see the little white vehicle and the carport. Right next to it is our new Downtown Connection Center break room. So we finally have delivered, roughly 3 months after the building was torn down, a break room trailer for our staff. So they are able to have nice restroom facilities, 2 of them, a break room and an office space. They have heat, they have AC in this facility. And I'm very thankful to the efforts of Jeremiah McVicker, who's here with me today, and Ann, who was online a few moments ago. They had to work very hard to get this trailer here. There were lots of challenges and delays along the way, and I know our team is very appreciative. So here are some photos. Dave Doss, our operations manager, threw a grand opening celebration. You can see some balloons and streamers, and he brought in, I think, chicken and some food to really celebrate this success with our team members. And then later, the following week, we did install the refrigerator within that same facility. It is a tight space, but hopefully it provides them with a place to get away from riders. I will say I've been downtown several times. And when our drivers are breaking at the picnic table, they might as well not be breaking because customers come over. They see you there and they come over and they're all very gracious, but it's nice for them to be able to go inside and get that 5 minutes away from the bus. Oops. I think we skipped one. I did not. I did put in the staff report on 8 more team members. Busy touched on this too, earned the 100% evaluation on their unobserved driver assessments. And I will share with you 4 of those, 3 of those individuals are just now celebrating their first anniversary. So we continue to see great success with our drivers being very dedicated to their jobs and safety when they are operating. We also began a mentorship program. This is part of an overhaul that we started in early July, to address some staffing shortages. And we introduced a program where instead of sitting in a classroom, the trainees are spending time in a vehicle with drivers for non-CDL specific training. This allows our training department to focus on the CDL specific items and our drivers to really share their firsthand knowledge. In this photo is Blaine Williams, who is one of the individuals who passed his CDL just this week, and our drivers, Stephen Olvera, who I believe we celebrated his anniversary last month, I believe. And then briefly, here are some anniversaries that are not considered milestone, but you can see some of them are significant. At the bottom, you have Rich Felipe and Carlos Lorenzo, both of them celebrating 18 years this year. Oh, and on the top right-hand column, or top right-hand row is Stephen Olvera celebrating 6 years with Mountain Line. We appreciate all of the work of these individuals who have been with us for varying bits of time, but altogether a very long time. We also have some administrative or in-office staff celebrating some anniversaries. Estella Hollander is celebrating 6 years, excuse me, this month. Juan Diego, who is a key member of our IT team, celebrating his 2nd anniversary with us. And Sam Short, who presented the safety minute earlier, is celebrating 13 years with Mountain Line. Briefly, a couple things not in the staff report. These photos are from Senator Sinema's visit to our building on August 8th, where we were able to highlight some of our successes with IIJA monies, the Infrastructure and Investment Job Acts. Behind us in these photos is our 2nd electric bus. So we did take delivery of the new Flyer electric bus in early August, and that vehicle now is in service. So on any given day, knock on wood, both of these electric buses can be found moving around our community. We're learning a lot about some challenges with these vehicles, and that's exactly what we wanted them here for. And lastly, we did provide free transit service over the Labor Day weekend to Coconino County Fair. And that was through a partnership with the county to pay for the cost to operate that program. I don't have ridership numbers for you, but we did see full buses on regular occasions. And we look forward to providing that report later and then working with the county what is next when we talk about that service program. And with that, Chair Williams, that's everything I have in my current events report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Heather. That's a great report. Excellent highlights, by the way. Any questions from the board? Right, hearing none, I think we'll move forward with our agenda today. Heather, appreciate your time. This is the part of our agenda where we will enter into executive session pursuant to Arizona revised statutes and to discuss the evaluation process for a Mountain Line CEO and general manager. Before we go into session, just want to let those present today know that we will return from executive session and reconvene our public meeting at that point in time. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor going into executive session at this time, please signal by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll now enter into executive session. Thank you.
Okay, IT is opening an executive session room that we will all move into. The members of the public will see the slide up that says we are in executive session. So that one doesn't go in.
That one should.
So we need to join on there too. Okay. Oh.
We have everybody back.
We are back. We were just.
We are back. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
He needs to go back. They have to table the agenda item.
Oh,
So that's item number 16, I believe.
put it in here.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's not a slide in the presentation,
Yeah.
Chair Williams, so we will just need you to propose action to table that item to a future agenda.
Okay. Do I have a motion from the board to table the Chief Executive Officer and General Manager contract amendment to a later meeting that will be scheduled by Mountain Line staff so that a more full board can be present in making that decision?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. So the slide that's on the screen right now is to recognize that our future meeting is a joint meeting with TAC. It's an advance that's scheduled for Wednesday, October 25th. So this is out of our normal meeting time. So that'll be something for you all to be aware of. And the next official board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, November 15th at 10 a.m. And then the Mountain Line staff will identify our next meeting time for our last action. So that notice will go out in accordance with open meeting laws. Is there any other items for the good of the order today? Any comments that the board want to make before we move to adjourn?
No.
Just a suggested future agenda item. I know, we've had some discussion about the electric buses. And if I could get an update on, or the board can get an update on their utilization, their uptime, and what have you. I think that'd be helpful.
Thank you. I think we have that slated for November, and if not, I'll make sure we get ahead. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
Was there anything else that you wanted to make sure that the board was aware of before we adjourn today, Heather?
Just a reminder that meeting in October is also an in-person meeting, and it's being held at Rue 66. So it is not at the Aquaplex as in prior years. It was already booked when we tried to book it. So Rue 66 is a venue space inside the Kachina Square Plaza. And we look forward to having you there.
Great. Thank you, Heather.
Mhm.
With that said, I cater a motion to adjourn today.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Our meeting